Happy Saturday, guys. Come on in our day. Yes, our day. Today is a special day. Yes, it is the day that the Lord has made. So I don't know about you, but I will rejoice and be glad in it. But it's Saturday. I get excited about Saturdays because we get to spend some time together. Maybe 5 minutes, more like 30 minutes. But today is going to be short. I promise you. It's going to be short. Praying that you're having an awesome day. If not, I pray that it gets better. What can you do to make your day better? You may not be able to change the situation, but you can change your attitude. You can change the way you communicate about it. You can change the way you deal with it. If you don't know what to do, put prayer on it. That always helps. That always works, right? Because you're taking the responsibility out of your own hands and out of your own care and placing it in God's hands. God, this thing is too big. God, this thing seems impossible. God, this thing is overwhelming. God, this thing is getting on my nerves. Yes, it's okay for it to get on your nerves. But what are you doing with what gets on your nerves? Now give it back to God. Say, God, help me to have the right attitude. Help me to handle this in the appropriate way. God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do before you do it? Don't ask him after you done did it, and now you ask him because you in a deeper hole than you were, or the situation now has become worse because you got in the middle of it. In the middle of it. Y'all know that song? It is a real song. But anyway, today's thought is going to be quick, but did want to encourage you. Can you hear? Are you listening? Now, one would think, well, if I hear, then I'm listening, but that's not necessarily the truth. I learned years ago, and I don't know if it was in a science class or maybe not science class. I don't know, some class. You could tell I wasn't really paying attention, right? I was a C student. Not because I had to be, because that's all I applied myself to be. I could have been an A student, but, I really didn't care for school like many kids don't. And I did just enough so I wouldn't get a beating on report card day. I did just enough so my mama wouldn't beat me because I brought an F in the home. Not me. I may have gotten one F in all my years of school, maybe. I'm not really sure. I was more like a C student. C minus, just rise. And I rise up. Right above a D, I rise up. So my mother wouldn't beat me. I rise up. And I did it year after year again. Yes, we got beatings in my house. But I'm grateful for them. It didn't kill me, but it stopped me from getting myself into a whole lot of stuff because I knew my mother didn't play that. She ain't play no games. She wasn't counting to 3. We wasn't getting in no corner. We were getting in the bathroom with that belt. She put that heat to our butt. So, thank you, Mommy. You probably saved me from a lot. Now, I got into a lot, but she probably saved me from a lot more. So, grab your tea, your coffee, your water, whatever you're drinking. Come on in. Can you hear? Are you listening? So, what I learned years ago in school is hearing is the ability. Hearing is an ability. You have the ability to hear. Listening is application of what you hear. I was about to say of the ability. Application of what you hear is listening. If we stop and think, how much have we gotten ourselves into? How many doors were closed? How many mistakes we made? How many failures, right? How many failures have we experienced? How many unnecessary things we may have gotten ourselves into because for some, you're not even trying to hear. That's for some. That's a whole problem. If you're not trying to hear nobody, that's the whole problem, because you don't know it all, because you don't have all the answers, because you are just not that wise and smart enough. I know you're cute. I know you're pretty. I know you're handsome. I know you got money. I know you got a great education. I know. But there are some things that are beyond your understanding. There are some things that are beyond what you can comprehend. And sometimes you need to stop and listen. Hear. What is the person saying? Yes, when it doesn't feel good. Even though I don't like what I'm hearing, it may be cutting on me. It may be making me feel some type of way. You know how we feel. My pastor hates that, but some of us, we feel some type of way. Okay? I give it to you. You feel some type of way. Some of you are not even using the ability that God has given you. There's someone today that is hearing and peer that would love to hear the sound of birds chirping. They would love to hear and not read someone's lips. Hear, I love you. Right? So we have the organ. We have the ability to hear. For others, you're hearing, but it stops there. It's sort of like it goes in one ear. Some it goes in one ear and out the other. Some it goes in your ear. It stops somewhere in between. You start pondering and wrestling with that thing in your mind and your head and trying to mix your understanding to what they said and what you think with what you said and what you know with what you said and where you've been with what they said and your experience with what they said and what other people are doing with what they said and what they're doing with what they said. And because there's so much confusion, kind of stops right there at the place of confusion. At the place of wondering, at the place of tossing back and forth in your mind. Well, do I listen? Don't I listen? Well, if I do listen, this is what's going to happen, or this is what may happen. Well, if I don't listen, then I'll keep doing it this way, and this way is working. But sometimes your way will only lead you to a dead end. It will only get you but so far. Can you hear? Are you listening? Some of our open doors are still closed because we are not listening. Listening means to follow. Listening means to apply. Listening means to act on what it is that you heard. Are you wise enough to listen to instruction? See, because we often think that wisdom is doing things our way. Wisdom is doing things the way that we read. Wisdom is doing the things the way that we know. Wisdom is doing the things the way that we've seen other people doing. But you know, one thing about wisdom, for many of us how can I say, the thing about an element of wisdom that is missing, and my pastor preached about it on Wednesday, is timing. It's timing. Could everything that you be thinking, everything that you read, everything that you want to do, everything that you have prepared be so right, but so wrong? Because of you trying to move either ahead of time or behind time. How do we hear? You know, Romans 10:17 says, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. There was another translation that said, and this is why I was like, because I was going to say it, but I want to say it now. Faith or belief comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. How do you have faith? It comes by hearing. But not just hearing by the word of God. Do you realize that God speaks not only through his word, but through people? You know, I was reading in Acts. Oh God, I was reading in Acts and I did not write it down. I can't think of one of the disciples. Man, this must be in chapter 10 or 11. 10 or 11. They were reading what Isaiah had read or had written. And, oh God, I think it was Paul. Gosh, now I want to go and find it. Had asked, do you know what you're reading? And he responded like, no, I'm reading. I understand the words, but what is the revelation? What is the interpretation? What is the meaning behind what it is that I'm reading? Because you can read, you can know all day, but if you don't have an understanding, then you lack wisdom. You lack wisdom. You just have information. But information turns into revelation when you get the wisdom of God. And that does not only come through his word. Notice I said it doesn't only come through his word, because it comes through his word. But it comes through his word in the form of people. Who is in your ear? Who is speaking to you? Who's encouraging you? Who's pushing you with that thought that you have? Who is cheering you on? who is pulling you back. Like, we need all of that in our lives. Oftentimes, we just want the yes men, the people that are going to make us feel good, the people that are going to support and push us, and what it is that we have written down, like the Bible said. We've done everything that the Bible said, but God's timing. There's a verse that also said seed time and harvest. So because you plant the seed, meaning because you prepare, you plan, you did what Habakkuk said, and you wrote the vision and made it plain, is it time for the manifestation of that seed to come forth? Or are you pulling it up out the ground because you sowed it yesterday, because you wrote it last week, because you started it, you started preparing, you started researching, you got all the supplies, and now I'm ready. But are you? But are you? Who is in your life that you're bouncing an idea about? Trust me, I'm not sharing anything with you or encouraging you in any way that I haven't been encouraged myself. Sometimes we think to have somebody tell us no means that we're doing the wrong thing. And it may not be that. It may be that. It may not be that. But we have to get to a place where we cannot not only hear, but we're mature enough to listen when I disagree, to listen when I don't like it, to listen when I'm ready to do this, to listen when I spent my money, to listen when I planned and prepared it, to listen when I've gathered the team. You may have done all of that, but can somebody tell you to wait? Can somebody tell you no? Can somebody tell you not right now? If you can, and if you're not mature enough to hear no, not right now, pause. You're not ready, even when you think you are. Now, I'm not just talking about anybody telling you this, like some stranger or somebody that you don't even. I'm talking about people that you trust, people that you value, people whose voice you know they hear from God. You know they're one with God. You trust that they're in the right place and right position with God. So if they know the God that's in me, they're not going to stop anything that is time. And they're not going to push anything that's not time. Do you have people in your life that you trust? Because that may be a problem too. If you got all mouths and ears around you, and it's just you giving your feedback, it's just you sharing, it's just you, and you have no one in your corner to be like, maybe I didn't want to tell you in front of everybody, but I have to tell you. So that's why I called you. That's why I text you. I didn't want to put you on blast. I didn't want to embarrass you, but it's not time. No, you're not ready. No, that thing wasn't prepared right. I know that they thought it was, and they think that is awesome. But where I see and what I see for you is greater than where you are. It's greater than how you have prepared. So I need you to spend a little bit more time investing in that preparation. I need you to get with somebody. Yes, it costs $100 to consult with them, but guess what? You're investing not only in yourself. See, it's beyond us. You're investing in the God that's in that thing. I'm saying, God, this is you. God, I don't want to shortchange you. God, I don't want to push you in a small way. Sometimes it's our thinking that needs to be elevated. I know for me, my thinking of who I am oftentimes needs to be elevated. I've always had a posture where I never want nobody to think I'm all that. So I will dumb myself down to make everybody feel good. Just so y'all know, like, I'm not trying to be nothing. I'm not trying to do nothing. Like, I'm doing what I'm doing, but I'm just like, I know it's cool. I know this little thing is simple. And I told y'all before, God started telling me there's nothing simple about me. Even when I give you something small to do, it's not simple because I'm great. And if I'm in that thing, that means that thing is great. It may not be at a great stage. There may be other levels to that thing. But even in the smallest form, God said, I ain't simple. And if you stamping that with simple, then stop saying that I'm in it. Because there's nothing simple about me. I am great. I am big. I'm all powerful. There's nothing I can't do. That's God. There's nothing I can do. Oh, really? Yeah, God be acting like that. He be like, there ain't nothing I can do. I'm seated on my throne. Show that. Show that. God's about that life too. sorry. There's nothing simple about what God has given you. Pay the money. Invest in that thing. You know, God told me something when I was walking last week. I didn't put this up, but he told me, he said, what if I'm giving you according to your faith? What if I'm giving you according to how and what you believe? Not your wants. Not your wants, because you want this big thing. You want this explosive thing. You want this great thing. And I'm not saying it in a carnal way. You want it because I showed it to you. You want it because I have it for you. You want it because it's been designed for your life before the foundations of this earth. So you want it because I put that desire in your heart. But you only have, little less than a mustard seed type faith. You want this big thing, but you're like, oh, but I'll settle for this guy because that's too much. You know, I don't want to put you through all of that, God, to give me that big thing. God's like, when are my children going to get it? When are my children going to get it? I'm not talking about somebody who has a motive. I'm not talking about somebody that's doing it because they want to be seen or they want everybody to think they popping and they got it going on. I'm talking about somebody whose hands are clean and their heart is pure. Your motives are for God to be seen. Your motives is so that he's glorified. Your motives is so that he is pleased with what you do. Your motive and your focus is, God, this is you. Just use me. God, use me to the fullest. Fill me up. And then God is saying, okay, I'm going to fill you up. I'm going to fill you up. But now pouring out, me coming out of you is going to cause this big thing to happen. It looks like this. And you're like, oh, God, that's big. That's big. I don't know. I don't know if I'm worthy. I don't know. And God's like, okay, well, I got it for you. I've designed it for you. But if this is all that you want, if this is all that you have faith for, because I stand by my word. Faith moves mountains. It's impossible to please me without faith. So could we even be having small faith, less than a mustard seed, talking about I'm pleasing God because I'm walking in what he has called me to do? He said without faith, can we stand to elevate our faith in this season? To believe God for what he said, to believe God to do what he said he's going to do, to wait on God to do it in his timing, to trust that he knows what's best for us, to trust the voices that he's put in our lives to correct us, to tell us no, to tell us go, to say yes, to support it, to push it. Can we stand to elevate ourselves? Can we stand to elevate? Can we stand, as I said earlier, to rise up? Not us, the God in us. Not necessarily us. Not my fear, my faith. Not my worry, but my worship. Not my problems. I'm not elevating my problems. You know, you make your problem. I'm not elevating my problems. I'm elevating my praise. Why? Because I trust God. And if I trust God and I'm in the ears and environments of those that he has called me to, then I have to trust them. And if you don't trust them, get away. Get away from them. Run. How long do people stay in churches? They don't like their pastors. They don't trust their pastors. They don't agree with nothing that they say. They just show up because they don't want that phone call to say, where were you? Or they just show up because it's Sunday. And so you think you're doing God a favor by showing up to church, but you getting nothing out of it? You going to church, he's supposed to be there. And if he's not there, you need to leave. You need to leave. Yes, have the conversation with your pastor. You need to leave. How much longer will you sit and die? Some of your purposes. Some of you don't know your identity because you're sitting under a voice that don't even know who they are. You're sitting under a voice who would prefer to push a motivational speech to have you keep coming back. But they're not cutting on you. So what you're hearing is not what you need to hear. So what you're listening to is everything positive. I can do this. I can be great. God is for me. He has my back. I can work this. I can operate this. Oh, yes, I'm going to pray and sow my seed and I'm going to get them. And that's all well and good. But do you know you're praying and you're sowing seed? If you ain't sowing into the right ground, then you need to stop expecting a great harvest. Can you hear? Are you listening? I challenge you in this season. I challenge you in this season. Check the voices that are around you. check the voices that are around you. After you check the voices that are around you and you know that these are God-sent people, this is a God circle. Now, I'm not saying everybody that you are friends with and everybody that you talk to is going to hear from God, because that's not just the truth. But if you don't have at least one, person that's challenging you to do it a different way, that's challenging you to stop, that's challenging you to move. You've been sitting too long. When are you going to do the thing that God is... See, because correction and the challenge, the voices is not always a pull-back voice. And oftentimes we fear getting in relationship with the people we say God has sent us because we're afraid of the pullback. But if they're really God-fearing people, if there's really the voice of God that speaks through them, there will not only be a pullback, but if there is, thank you, Holy Spirit. Once again, we talked about the bow and arrow a few weeks ago. If they pulling back, even if they're pulling back, it's only because when God releases you, you will go, the distance that you go would be so far and you will not miss the mark. You will bullseye the target. You will hit the target. So even in their pullback, it may be your season of pullback. And you looking at them like, oh, you won't let me do nothing. Oh, you always telling me no. Oh, you always telling me I'm not ready. Oh, you stopping and you blocking what God is doing. And they may be the very voice that's stopping and blocking the enemy that's on the other end of you moving before it's time. The enemy that's on the other end of you moving in what you think is right. The enemy that's on the other end of you moving on that thing that's just not ready. So you're getting some speed, but your momentum, I think Pastor Corey spoke about that a couple of weeks ago. Your momentum, it's like... But then I'm slowing down. And now I'm running in place. Now, okay, this thing is working. Now I'm slowing down. Now I'm running in place. Do you know that's tiring? This is tiring. To break momentum, to start again, to break momentum, to start again, to break is weird. That's frustrating. You ever been on a highway and you're going 80 and it's like that car in front of you that just keeps... Let me calm myself down. The car in front of you that keeps, pressing their brakes. And you in your car like, what are you braking for? There's nobody in front of you. Move or move over. Why? Because you got somewhere to go. And if you're doing 80, which you probably shouldn't be doing, Lord forgive me. If you're doing, we say 70, because that's the speed limit a lot of places. If you're doing 70, which is legally right, according to the 70 mile per hour sign on the highway, if that's the truth, this person in front of you is breaking your momentum, is breaking your flow. You just trying to get to where you got to go. You prep the car, gas, alignment, check. Mirrors, check. Everything is prepped, ready to go. But now this one individual just keeps getting in your way. And even as I'm saying that, you ever been frustrated because you had to detour or you forgot something at home? So you got 2 minutes down the road and you like, oh my God. And now you're frustrated and aggravated. You go back home, you get what you got to get. Or if you're in traffic or somebody cuts you off or something happens, and then you get up, maybe 10 minutes later and realize, wow, this accident. Wow, and traffic is not backed up miles. So that means this just happened. Wow, 10 minutes ago, if this accident just happened, I would have been in the same place. Could that be me? It's in my lane. Could that be me? It's in the direction that I'm going. Could that be me? Sometimes what you're hearing and what you don't want to listen to because of what you want to do, sometimes it's the thing that you need to hear. Every level, all success, every accomplishment, every assignment, every position, every new beginning, every opportunity comes with new responsibility. I'm going to say that again. Every level, all success, every accomplishment, every assignment, every position, every new beginning, every opportunity comes with new responsibility, which means hearing and listening is not only important, but vital, not only to your growth, but to your movement. To your movement. You ever see something that grows fast? A ministry, a business, even a person. Weight. You growing fast. But it comes crumbling down. But it hits a roadblock. But it hits a wall. But what happened? Like that thing was just, it was going, it was booming. Because we're looking at the natural. We don't know what they did. We don't know what they didn't do. We don't know what they heard. We don't know what they're listening to. Everything, all of the things that I just named before, is vital and is what's the word? I can't think of the word that I want to say. Can't think of the word, but hearing and listening is necessary, vital, not just for your growth, because we don't want to grow quick and then get to a place where we start coming down or things start going haywire and crazy because we grew past a step. We grew or moved past a particular and specific process that was very well needed, because when you got to this place, that was going to be needed for here. So we don't want to just grow. We want there to be movement and momentum. Can you hear? Are you listening? That's the encouraging word for today. You need to ask yourself that. If you're listening to this, then you could hear. You can hear. There's someone who's only able to look at this and read my lips. But if you're listening and you tuned in, it's because you can hear. Now the question becomes, are you listening? Are you applying? Do you have revelation and understanding if it's being given to you? Even if you don't like it, it's time for you to start taking heed and listening to the voice of God. My sheep know my voice, and a stranger they will not follow. That's not only through the word, because if you're reading the word, like the example that I gave earlier with the disciple that was reading Isaiah in Acts. If you're reading, you could read the word, but if you don't have no understanding, no revelation of it, no interpretation of it, then it's like you're not able to apply the principles or follow the principle, apply yourself to be able to benefit from following the principles in the word to have what God says. So hear, don't only hear, listen. It is vital to not only your growth, but to your movement. I pray something in this Saturday encouraged you and blessed you. Till next Saturday, keep living, keep laughing, keep loving, keep breathing. Jesus loves you, and I do too. Oh, and I can.